Hi guys, welcome back to my channel. Today we are going to be discussing how to become a backend engineer. Let's dive in. How to become a backend engineer in 2025 and beyond. The things I'm going to be talking about you can apply, in 2026 and beyond. And yeah, so backend will comprise of several things: databases, APIs, some security stuff. So let's dive in. So this video is going to kind of hope to give you a very simple understanding, but also detailed, so that if you decide to learn backend engineering, you have like a resource that you can come back to, see all the things that you need to learn, flesh out your entire roadmap and everything. By the way, if you are interested in learning backend engineering, you can check out codecademy.com for a 50% discount on your first purchase. They have amazing courses there. You can learn so many things, including backend engineering. So check out the link in the description below. All right. So think of the backend as kind of the invisible thing. You interact with like a web page. For example, if you go to Amazon and you visit the web page, the backend stores all of this data. Since the front end will make a request to the backend will send back some data to the front end. The front end will then display the data for the user. So that is what the backend is about. It involves logic, data, APIs, and it's the behind the scenes stuff. So the entire flow for the backend is that a request is made by a front end, like a front end client. So whether it's a mobile app or a web page, a website or something, makes a request. The backend will, process the data, like the data and everything, process the request. If it needs to get, fetch some database, it would, and then send a response back. Now, this is a flowchart to maybe drive this point home even more. So the user goes Amazon.com, and so that hits some kind of API route that Amazon has. The backend sees this, okay, we want to get Amazon.com, like maybe the homepage. And it will decide, okay, what should be displayed on the homepage? Maybe we should have some category, this, that. Then it will now maybe make several, database queries. And then once it gets the data, the products, the categories, the user history, all those kinds of things, it will send a response back to the user on the front end. Then the front end will display it. The core concepts about the backend that you must know, there is requests, like handling client requests and things like that. Routes, so if you go to // or /products or /products /ID, those kinds of things. Controllers, which is processing the request and specific requests and then handling the response. That's kind of where the logic lives. And then sending the response back to the user. So as part of all of that, you need to also know databases. The database is what would store the data and everything. There are two kinds of databases that you can go with. You can either use a SQL database or NoSQL database. SQL or SQL and NoSQL database. Now, SQL database is relational, it's structured. MongoDB is a type of NoSQL database. It doesn't really have a rigid structure or schema. The data is stored in like JSON documents. If you don't really understand what JSON is, don't worry about it. As you learn more about these things, you'd understand. But Postgres is a type of SQL database. It is more for structured data and everything. For almost all of the projects that you do, probably stick with SQL. Only do NoSQL if you absolutely need it. So there's a chart for you to decide how to choose a database. So if the product has like a rigid structure, so like product, like let's say like you're building an e-commerce store, so you have like product. A product has like a title, description, price, The structure I think is quite rigid, so I would recommend just using a SQL database for that. Of course, you could use like a NoSQL database. So if you would have some relationships between the items and things like that, go to SQL. If you do not require any relationships or anything like that, you want everything to be extremely flexible, then you might want to do NoSQL database. There are some systems that make uses of both parts of both databases for different purposes. So yeah, you could have a project where you kind of combine the two. Let's talk about security. That's another concept in backend engineering you need to understand. So we have authentication, tokens, sessions, hashing, roles. So usually you hear the term authentication and authorization. Authentication basically verifies like who you are through credentials, and then authorization is, do you have the permission to access this particular data? That's basically what those two are. A token is like string, character string or something that helps with identity verification. You need to understand how to manage sessions, how to clean up, stale sessions, all those kinds of things. Hashing, this is for like particularly storing like sensitive data like passwords, because you never ever store a user's password in the database as the user types it. Because in that event, if somebody ever hacks your system, then all the passwords will be exposed. So there are usually some algorithms out there that hash the password, is stored as some giant gibberish, and then only you know how to get the actual password back when you need it. So that's it from the security side of things. These are just basic security things. Of course, depending on the project, you might have more robust security system and everything, because security is absolutely essential. The next thing is, you would need to decide which framework, which language that you learn. I would just recommend sticking with either Python or JavaScript, because those are like beginner friendly languages. Of course, you can do Java, you can do C#, you can do C++, you can do whatever it is that you want to do. You can do Go. Go is a programming language. So if you've not heard of Go, Golang, let me see, Go, if I can spell, Golang. So the Go programming language, this is Go. It's like, I have done some work with it before. It looks a lot like Python. But yeah, you might want to use Go, learn Go. I'm not entirely sure about the amount of job opportunities that there are when you learn this language, but you could try it out. You could be, the best Go engineer. But I do think that lots of companies, particularly bigger companies, use this as the preferred language for backend systems. But yeah, generally just probably stick with Python or JavaScript. If you do go with Python, you can either go with FastAPI, which is like, modern, fast, high performance kind of thing. It has asynchronous programming built in. Or you can go with Django, which is also like, tried and tested. It comes with like batteries included. Like it has a lot of features baked in right from day one. It would simplify your development process and everything. But if you want something that you can, put all the pieces together yourself, can be really modular and everything, you can use FastAPI. On the JavaScript side, you can either use Express or NestJS. The JavaScript usually has lots of options for these things, so the choice is yours. Backend as well, there's another on the Python side. There's another framework called Flask that you can explore. So Flask, FastAPI, or Django. And on the JavaScript side, these are the options. So before we continue with the video, let's take a word from today's sponsor, API Layer. So what's API Layer? Simple. Think of API Layer as a massive toolbox. They have a whole bunch of APIs, which basically means they give you the keys to integrate extremely powerful features directly into whatever you're building. So if you're building an app, a website, or just doing some data crunching, they make adding complex features really simple. The whole idea is to make your life easier as a developer, and who doesn't love that? Now, API Layer has a ton of APIs, but two specific ones that I think you should really pay attention to, especially if you're thinking about building real-world projects for your portfolio so that you can land your job, are Market Stack and IP Stack. Let's talk about Market Stack. If you're building or even thinking about building anything finance related, a stock tracker, a portfolio manager, or just pulling some real-time market data for a project, Market Stack is your go-to. It gives you literal real-time and historical stock data from over 70 global exchanges. This is the kind of data you need to build serious applications. It's solid, trust me. So the second one we'll talk about is IP stack. This one is wild. If you want to know where your website visitors are coming from, or need to even detect the currency, or maybe you want to block some shady IP addresses in order to keep your app secure, IP stack does all of that instantly. It's a powerful tool for personalizing user experiences or just making stuff safe. Very useful, believe me. So why bother with API layer? It's simple. They take the headache out of integrating complex stuff. They are reliable, the data is accurate, and that means you can focus on building the meat of your application. You don't need to be wrestling with data sources. If you're building out your portfolio, trying to get a job, or just making something cool, using a service like API layer can seriously elevate your projects. It's smart engineering, plain and simple. If you're ready to see how these can boost your projects, head over to apilayer.com, marketstart.com, or ipstack.com. I've put all the links right there in the description for you. A massive thank you to API Layer for supporting Tech Trek. Now let's get back to the video. Let's talk about the roadmap. So the first thing is to understand the language that you're going to be using. So for JavaScript or Python, you need to understand the language. So you probably maybe take a JavaScript course or take a Python course. Once you do that, you should then maybe start learning about backend stuff. Then the first thing you should try to do is build a simple CRUD API. CRUD simply stands for create, retrieve, update, delete. So build an API that can has endpoints for creating entities, retrieving entities, updating and deleting entities as well. Then the next thing you want to do is be able to connect to a database, so like Postgres, or I think in the beginning you could probably do SQLite. SQLite is like a very like a database that you basically use when you're like developing. It's not like production grade database. You wouldn't build your app with SQLite, but yeah, you can maybe just do SQLite. It might be good for now. But if you at this point you can deal with Postgres, just connect it to Postgres directly. And then the next thing would be making sure you can add some authentication to it, right? To your project, like understanding authentication and authorization. You can learn JWT, which is JSON Web Tokens, which is like kind of like a system for authentication. You can also learn about auth. Auth helps you do that sign up with Google kind of thing. It might be maybe a little tough for you at this point, but yeah, you can just do regular username, password, or JWT, JSON Web Token, and you'd be fine. Then you build a full project which has like all of these features. So once you understand CRUD, database, authentication, build a full project around that. Deploy your project to the cloud, okay, and then learn about debugging and logging. So errors are bound to happen. So you need to have like a system for logging and those kinds of things. Examples are, I think, Datadog, Grafana, probably, not entirely sure, but yeah, look into that. And then, obviously add it to your portfolio. If it's, impressive enough, add it to your portfolio. So I have some project ideas for you as well. Before we even get into that, let's kind of go through a summary of the entire backend flow. So on the backend is, a request is received from a client which is a mobile app or a web page. It goes to, so if it is, let's say /products, it goes to a particular handler that handles all the /products like requests, and then it checks if, is this user authenticated? Who is this person? Is this person signed in? If the person is signed in, then we need to authorize. Does this person have access to this particular page? Because assuming it's like an internal dashboard, and then only managers can have access to it, but then like regular employees don't have access. They are all, both managers and salespeople, for example, are all employees, but they are not all at the same level. So if this page is for managers only, the person is authenticated but not authorized. If the person is, someone outside, then the person is not authenticated. So if authentication failed, you probably go through some error response, log the error, and then send the response to the client. If authentication passed and then the person passed authorization as well, you probably do some validation, whatever, and then you go to the next thing. if the person fails the authorization, saying, you do not have access to this page or something, again, returns an error response, you log the error, and then send the response to the client. If you pass validation and everything, then we now go to the actual business logic. So we don't deal with any of this stuff if you are not authenticated and authorized to view this web page or like that particular endpoint or something. Then you go to your business logic, like maybe you're doing a dashboard or something like that. Like you probably, do some calculations, whatever it is that you have to do. Ignore this. I should have probably removed it from the flowchart, but yeah, part of the backend engineer's work is dealing with caching and those kinds of things. But let's skip this. So we would then maybe query the database. If it's successful without an error, we do something and then format the response, log the response, send the response to the clients. It is a very complex process, but usually this is the entire flow. Once a user makes a request, it usually goes through all of these kind of loops and things like that before the final thing is returned. It can be way more complex than this. Awesome. So now actually to the project ideas that I have. Build a booking system that handles reservations, availability, and confirms appointments. So this can be like just the back-end side of it, and then if you can vibe code a front end for it, fine. If not, no big deal. There's an API, might be okay. You can build a blog backend, e-commerce backend for online shopping, payments, orders, those kinds of things. This one will teach you a lot. This one especially will teach you a lot because you need to learn about something called idempotency, which basically is making sure that you do not a subsequent request, which is the same thing, shouldn't cause maybe two responses or something like that. I think that's what it's about. So for example, if somebody tries to make a payment and like the first request failed for some reason, and then you try again, like the front end automatically tries again, or something like that. The two requests that were sent, the backend should be able to handle that gracefully in knowing that, if you've handled it already, good. If not, then you can handle the second one. Do not, if the user clicks clicks the purchase button very quickly, 2 times or something, and then it sends 2 requests or something like that, you should be able to handle that gracefully. So that you don't end up charging the user twice or something like that. So this e-commerce stuff will teach you a lot, particularly when it comes to payments and things, making sure that you do not overcharge users and stuff like that. You can also do a blog backend. This will probably be maybe the simplest thing to deal with. So you can do this. I hope it's not too difficult, and I hope if you enjoy this kind of format of me using slides and flowcharts and things like that to try and explain these concepts, let me know in the comments. I am, trying to do this kind of thing more. I've been thinking of ways to make videos more engaging and stuff. So yeah, let me know what you thought about that, about this video format, as opposed to me just sitting down before the camera and just rattling everything off memory. Hopefully this is something that maybe it's helpful, maybe it's a bit more useful or something like that. But yeah, so learn the fundamentals, and later you can explore AI systems. The next video I'm going to be talking about is how to transition from being a backend engineer, front-end engineer, to being able to build AI systems that are more intelligent systems, dealing with large language models, building AI agents, building agentic workflows, those kinds of things, understanding all of those kinds of concepts and how to learn it and everything. If you are interested in a video like that, let me know in the comments. But please share, subscribe. I want to be making videos a lot. I want to be making a lot more videos than I'm doing now. One of the ways I can do that is if you destroy the like button and share this to anybody that you know that wants to become a software engineer. Yeah. Thank you. I'll see you. Bye.